I'm speaking on behalf of IJAN. The banner's right behind me. Very pleased to do so. I'm obviously Jewish. I'm also a retired GP. I thought I would just tell people a little bit about what's happened in the health sector in Gaza and in Palestine. Many people will know. But what I did last night is I went online and wrote down, just doing Google searches and so on, what the Israelis have done to the health service in Palestine and in Gaza in particular. 23 out of 36 hospitals have been destroyed. There's no functioning health service in northern Gaza. You know, hospitals are really important at a time of war, because what we doctors, nurses and other healthcare workers can do, we can help people who've been traumatized by wounds and injuries and so on. We're quite good at that. We're not so good at managing chronic disease. And by destroying the hospitals, people who are injured, who could be saved, will die slow, painful deaths. And also, of course, they're destroying the hospitals in order to make Gaza uninhabitable. We know that. It's part of the ethnic cleansing. 500 people were bombed and murdered in the grounds of Al-Orda Hospital in mid-October. Remember that? And they blamed a Hamas rocket. But what happened, if you listen to the Palestinians, Dr. Abu Sitta said he was in the hospital when it happened. 2 days before, the Israelis phoned up the hospital director and said, move out or we're going to bomb the hospital. They didn't go. How could they go? How could they abandon their patients? So what did they do? They bombed right next to the hospital the following day. They phoned the administrator again and they said, move out or we're going to bomb you. Obviously they didn't move out, so the next day they bombed the hospital and murdered 500 people. What we know is at least 340 healthcare workers have died in Gaza. There's a deliberate campaign against healthcare workers. Hundreds have been abducted. The directors of Al-Shifa Hospital and 2 other major hospitals have been imprisoned and are being tortured. What they're being charged with? Oh, because Hamas has a command and control center under the hospitals. Absolute rubbish. We know that's rubbish. They are firing shells directly into hospitals. There are snipers outside hospitals, killing patients, killing healthcare workers. The maternity hospital. The Nasser Medical Complex in Khan Yunis has been under siege for days and days and days. Hundreds have been killed. A spokesman for the Gaza Ministry of Health said patients are injured and those who took shelter in the hospital are gripped with fear and overwhelmed with horror. Of course they are. We know that. And did you hear about the bulldozer in the grounds of Kamal Adwan Hospital? There were 20 or more patients in tents in the courtyard of the hospital. One of these huge military D9 bulldozers just drove over them and ground 20 people into the earth. Living humans with a bulldozer. This is what these monsters are capable of. In Al-Shifa Hospital, 5 premature babies and 20 patients in ICU died. Why? Because there's no power for the ICU equipment, for the ventilators and incubators. Al-Nasser Children's Hospital, 5 premature babies were left because they drove the staff out of the hospital in early November. 3 weeks later, when there was the pause, people were allowed back into the area, and what did they find? The decomposing bodies of those 5 precious babies. Sorry, just give me a minute. Did you hear about the letter that nearly 100 Israeli doctors signed, calling themselves Doctors for the Rights of IDF Soldiers? What did they do in their letter? They said the residents of Gaza who saw fit to turn the hospitals into terrorist nests in an attempt to take advantage of Western morality are the ones who brought their annihilation upon themselves. These are doctors talking.
Disgusting stuff.
Attacking terrorist headquarters located inside of a hospital is the right of the IDF and its duty. These are doctors openly calling for war crimes to be committed. What did the Israeli Medical Association say? Oh, we support the rights, or we support humanity, and we're against things like this. Did they criticize these doctors, let alone suspend them or expel them? No, these doctors are still working. Today they are working.
Get rid of them.
Expel them.
For decades, Israeli doctors have been implicated in complicity in torture. We know torture goes on all the time in Israeli prisons. And we saw it very graphically during the so-called humanitarian pause when the Palestinian prisoners were released. They all spoke about the abuse and torture that they were subjected to. And just a couple more points. I just wanted to say something about the munitions, the arms that the IDF were using. About half the bombs that have been dropped are so-called dirty bombs, right? They're not targeted. So they drop them out of the planes and they fall kind of approximately in the area that they're going for. We know Gaza is one of the most packed, concentrated places on earth in terms of people in that tiny little space. They're also using these huge 1,000-kilogram bombs, right? I looked this up last night. The kill zone is 365 meters around the explosion site of the bomb. The US dropped one of these bombs against its war on ISIS. In 1 month, Israel dropped 500 of them. When they attacked the Jabalia refugee camp, 3, 4, 5, 6 of these bombs on an area the size of half of where we are around here in Camden. Why did they do it? Oh, they were going for a Hamas commander. Lastly, there's stories of the harvesting of organs from dead Palestinians by the Israelis.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
The last thing I want to say, our friend Wes Streeting, what has he said? He wants to introduce and get into the NHS a company called Health.io, which is an Israeli firm affiliated to the IDF. So his privatization agenda extends to a welcome to firms linked with the Israeli Defense Force. Sorry, final thing I want to say to Keir Starmer. You know, a previous leader of your party, Ed Milliband, in 2013, said no to the invasion and attacking of Syria. I'm sure people remember that. They lost the vote in the House of Commons, the Tory government. And what happened? The UK couldn't support that intervention, and then the Americans stopped, and it didn't happen. So when you take a stand, even in opposition, you can make a big difference. So thank you everyone for coming. It's so important we keep this up, and let's continue to do what we do.